He left the camera pointing straight at my bed. I froze, standing there in my nightgown, my trembling fingers gripping the tiny black device I had just pulled out from under my dresser. My heart pounded so loud I could hear it in my ears. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't believe what I was holding. A camera. A hidden camera. I am Margaret Ellis, an 82-year-old grandmother. Blonde, though now streaked with silver, and I live alone, or at least I thought I did. My daughter Lisa and her husband David had moved in with me a few months ago to help me out, as they put it. They said I shouldn't be alone at my age. I believed them. I even felt grateful. But as I stared at the little camera in my hands, that gratitude twisted into something sharp and cold. Someone had been watching me, recording me, violating me. I looked around my room, suddenly suspicious of everything. The lamp, the picture frame, the smoke detector. My skin crawled. How many were there? How long had they been watching me? I didn't know what to do. My hands shook so violently I nearly dropped the thing. I thought about calling the police right away, but a voice inside me whispered, "Find out who did this first." When I bent down to inspect the outlet where the camera's wire ran, my stomach flipped. The cord led straight into the wall. And I remembered, only one person had been working on my room's wiring last week. David, my son-in-law. He had said he was fixing the outlet. Suddenly, my entire world shifted. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But instead, I took a deep breath and slipped the camera back into its place, making sure it looked untouched. If David was watching me, I needed him to keep thinking I didn't know. That night, I pretended to sleep while my heart raced. Every sound, every creak in the hallway, felt like a threat. I kept my eyes half closed, listening. At one point, I heard the faint sound of footsteps. The door creaked open just a crack. My blood turned to ice. Someone was standing there, watching me. I couldn't see clearly in the dark, but I saw the outline of a man. Broad shoulders. Tall frame. It was David. I kept still, forcing my breath to remain steady, as he lingered for a moment and then closed the door. My hands clenched under the covers. That was the moment I knew. This was no mistake. No misunderstanding. David had been watching me. But why? What kind of man does this to his wife's elderly mother? The next morning, over breakfast, I forced myself to act normal. I smiled at Lisa and sipped my coffee, pretending not to notice how David's eyes lingered on me longer than they should have. He smirked, like he knew a secret. Inside, I was screaming. I had to find out just how deep this went. I had to uncover every camera, every sick thing he was doing behind my daughter's back. But I also knew I had to be careful. If he realized I was onto him, who knew what he might do? That night, when everyone was asleep, I grabbed a flashlight and began to search my room. Under the bed. Behind the curtains. Inside the vents. And there, inside the air vent above my dresser, I found another camera. My knees buckled. My whole body felt like it was on fire. How many nights had he watched me changing clothes, using the bathroom, crying in the dark when I thought I was alone? As I climbed down from the chair, my foot slipped, and I crashed to the floor. The loud thud echoed through the house. My heart raced as I scrambled to my feet. Then I heard it, footsteps rushing toward my room. The door flew open, and David stood there, his face twisted in fake concern. "Margaret, are you okay?" he asked, his voice dripping with something I couldn't quite name. I clutched the flashlight tight, hiding the camera behind me. "I'm fine," I said, forcing a smile. But his eyes narrowed, scanning the room like a predator. And in that moment I knew he suspected something. I had to act fast. What I didn't know was that David wasn't just watching me. He had plans for me, and they were far worse than I could imagine. The next morning, Sunlight spilled through the curtains, but it didn't warm me. My heart was still pounding from the night before. I sat at the breakfast table, my hands trembling as I spread butter on my toast. Lisa was chatting about her work, oblivious. David sat across from me, sipping his coffee slowly, his eyes meeting mine with a look that made my stomach turn. He knew. I could feel it. I forced a smile and asked Lisa about her day, trying to act normal. But David's smirk never left his face. He leaned back in his chair and said casually, "Did you sleep well last night, Margaret?" My hand froze mid-air. Did he know I had found the cameras? I swallowed hard and replied, "Yes, thank you." He grinned, but there was something dark behind it. After breakfast, I went for my usual walk around the block. The crisp air helped clear my head. I needed a plan. I couldn't just accuse him without proof. Lisa loved him too much, and she might not believe me. I had to be smart. I had to gather evidence. When I got back home, I quietly checked other rooms. The guest room, the hallway, even the living room. That's when I noticed something odd. The smoke detector's tiny light wasn't blinking. I climbed up on a chair to inspect it. Sure enough, there was another hidden camera inside. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just about my room. He had cameras all over the house. That night, I decided to test him. I spoke aloud in my room, as if to myself. "I think I'll call the electrician tomorrow to check the wiring." Within minutes, I heard the sound of footsteps outside my door, then silence. He was listening. Later, while Lisa was in the shower, David came into the kitchen where I was washing dishes. He leaned close, too close, and whispered, "You don't need to call anyone. Everything is fine here." I froze. His voice was calm, but there was a threat hidden in it. I turned to face him, forcing myself to stay strong. "Thank you, David, but I like to handle my own things." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You should just relax, Margaret. Let me take care of everything." I wanted to scream at him, but I stayed quiet. I couldn't let him know how terrified I really was. That night, I pretended to sleep again, waiting. Around midnight, the door creaked open. I kept my eyes closed, breathing slowly. I could feel him standing there, watching me. Then, after a few moments, he stepped closer. My heart was beating so loud I thought he'd hear it. Suddenly, I heard a click, a camera shutter. He was taking pictures. I wanted to jump up, but I forced myself to stay still. Finally, he left, closing the door softly behind him. As soon as he was gone, I opened my eyes. My cheeks were wet with tears. I felt violated, powerless, and trapped in my own home. The next day, I called my old friend Helen, a retired cop. I told her everything. She believed me right away and promised to help. "Don't confront him yet," she warned. "Play along, but gather as much proof as you can." With her advice, I bought a small hidden camera of my own and placed it on my dresser. If David thought he was the only one watching, he was wrong. That night, I set my trap. I left the room dark, pretending to sleep as usual. Hours later, the door opened again. My heart raced as the silhouette of David crept closer. I heard the faint sound of his phone's camera clicking. And then, he reached under my pillow. My body stiffened, but I stayed still. He pulled out the tiny camera I had hidden earlier. He looked at it, then looked around suspiciously. He knew I was onto him. As he turned to leave, my phone, set to record, caught everything. His face, his actions, his sick grin. The next morning, I sent the footage to Helen. She said, "Margaret, this is serious. Don't stay alone with him. I'll come over tomorrow." But I didn't have until tomorrow. That evening, David confronted me in the kitchen. His voice was low, dangerous. "You've been snooping, haven't you?" My hands tightened around the dish towel. I don't know what you're talking about. He stepped closer, his eyes cold. Stop playing games, Margaret, or you'll regret it. Before I could answer, Lisa walked in, and he instantly switched to his charming smile. But his eyes stayed on me, filled with silent warning. I knew then, things were about to get much worse. That night, I woke up to find a shadow standing over my bed, and this time, he wasn't just holding a camera. The cold metal glinted in the moonlight. I squinted through half-open eyes, my heart thundering in my chest. David was standing over me again, but this time, he wasn't holding his phone or a camera. He had something in his hand, a knife. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to move, to scream, to do something, but I forced myself to stay still, breathing shallowly, pretending to sleep. The blade hovered near my face as he crouched closer. He whispered, "You think you're smart, huh? You think I don't know what you're doing?" My heart nearly stopped. He knew. I stayed perfectly still, praying Lisa would come in or something would distract him. After a few tense moments, he straightened, pocketed the knife, and slipped out of the room. The door clicked shut behind him. I lay frozen for what felt like hours. When I finally dared to move, tears streamed down my face. I clutched the hidden camera that had recorded everything. This wasn't just about watching me anymore. He was dangerous. The next morning, I acted like nothing happened. I smiled at Lisa, asked about her plans, and kept my voice steady, though inside I was shaking. David kept glancing at me, testing me. He knew I was scared, and I could tell he enjoyed it. I couldn't stay silent any longer. I called Helen as soon as I got a chance. I whispered into the phone. He came into my room last night. With a knife. Helen, I'm scared. Helen's voice was firm. Pack a bag. Leave the house now. Go to a motel, anywhere. I'll call the police. But just as I was about to slip out the door, Lisa appeared. Mom, where are you going? She asked, frowning. My throat tightened. Should I tell her? Would she believe me? Before I could answer, David came up behind her, wrapping his arm casually around her shoulders. His smile was sharp as a blade. Going somewhere, Margaret? My heart pounded, but I forced a laugh. Just going for a walk. He stepped closer, his voice soft so only I could hear. You're not going anywhere. That night, I barricaded my door with a chair. I barely slept, clutching my phone like a lifeline. Every creak of the floorboards made me jump. In the early hours, I heard footsteps outside my door. The knob turned, but the chair held. David's voice hissed through the crack. Open the door, Margaret. I stayed silent, trembling. He rattled the knob harder, then banged on the door. You can't hide forever. Finally, the footsteps retreated. When I thought it was safe, I turned on my hidden camera footage and rewatched the previous night's events. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I had clear proof now, not only of the cameras but of his threats. I sent the videos to Helen with the message, "Help me. He's getting worse." The next day, Helen arrived unexpectedly while Lisa and David were out. She examined the house, found multiple hidden cameras, and collected them as evidence. This is enough to arrest him, she said. But we need to catch him in the act for stronger charges. That evening, we set up one final trap. I pretended to be asleep, just like before, while Helen hid in the closet with her phone ready to record. Hours passed. The house was silent. Then, the door creaked open. David entered, moving slowly, his face twisted with anger. In his hand, he held a small cloth soaked in something, chloroform. My heart nearly stopped. He was going to knock me out. Just as he leaned over me, Helen burst out of the closet, shining a flashlight in his face. "Step away from her, David!" she shouted. He stumbled back, shocked. "What the?" Before he could react, Helen lunged, pinning his arm and grabbing the cloth. He fought back, but she was stronger than she looked. I scrambled out of bed, screaming for help. Lisa ran in, her eyes wide with horror as she saw her husband struggling with Helen. "What is going on?" she cried. Helen shouted, "Your husband's been spying on your mother, and worse." She threw the cameras on the bed. "We have everything on tape." David's face turned pale. He tried to run, but Helen tackled him to the floor. Moments later, the police burst through the door. Helen had called them earlier to wait nearby. They dragged David away in handcuffs as he yelled, "You'll regret this, Margaret." But I wasn't safe yet. Because as they were taking him out, he looked back at me with a chilling smile and whispered, "This isn't over." And somehow, I knew he meant it. The house was silent after they took David away, but the silence didn't bring me peace. It felt heavier, almost suffocating. I sat on the edge of my bed, clutching a cup of tea Lisa had made me. My hands trembled so badly the tea sloshed over the rim. Lisa sat across from me, her eyes swollen from crying. "Mom, I don't understand. How could he do this?" Her voice cracked, full of disbelief and shame. I wanted to hold her, to tell her it would be okay, but I couldn't lie to her. "Sweetheart, sometimes evil hides in the people we think we know best." She buried her face in her hands. "I loved him. I defended him. Her words broke into sobs. I stroked her back gently. "You didn't know. None of this is your fault." But even as I comforted her, a cold dread settled in my chest. David's words echoed in my mind, "This isn't over." The next day, the police confirmed they had found several other hidden devices connected to David's phone and laptop. There was enough evidence to charge him with illegal surveillance and attempted assault. They promised he'd stay behind bars for a while. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I checked every corner of the house repeatedly, even though the officers had cleared it. Every creak of the floor made my heart jump. At night, I kept the lights on and barely slept. Lisa tried to stay strong, but I could see her falling apart. She avoided calls from her friends and refused to answer questions from the neighbors. Our once peaceful home was now full of whispers and stares from people who had heard about the arrest. One evening, Helen came over to check on us. "You need to think about leaving this place for a while," she said firmly. "Go stay with relatives or at a safe house until the trial is over." But I was stubborn. "I won't let him chase me out of my own home," I replied. "This is where I've lived for 40 years. Helen sighed, but she didn't argue further. A few days later, I woke up to a strange sound, a soft scratching against my bedroom window. My heart stopped. Slowly, I turned my head and froze. A note was stuck to the glass, held by a small piece of tape. My blood ran cold as I read the words scrawled in black marker. "You can't hide from me, Margaret." I stumbled back, my knees weak. My hands shook so violently I dropped the note after pulling it inside. Lisa rushed in, alarmed by my scream. "Mom, what happened?" I showed her the note. Her face went pale. The police said he was still in custody. Helen arrived minutes later after I called her. When she saw the note, her jaw tightened. "He's got someone helping him. This isn't just him anymore." The police increased patrols around the house, but the fear didn't go away. I started noticing little things out of place, my bedroom curtains drawn when I knew I left them open, the smell of cigarette smoke lingering in the hallway when neither Lisa nor I smoked. One night, while lying in bed, I heard a soft click near my dresser. I held my breath, slowly turning my head. The dresser drawer was open, just an inch. I knew I hadn't left it like that. Grabbing my phone, I quickly opened the hidden camera app Helen had installed. My heart stopped when I saw the live feed. It showed a figure standing just outside my bedroom door, barely visible in the shadows. I dialed Helen with trembling fingers. "He's here," I whispered. Before Helen could respond, the power in the house went out, plunging everything into darkness. Lisa screamed from her room. I jumped out of bed, my heart pounding so loud it hurt. Using the faint light from my phone, I stumbled toward her. But before I reached her door, a strong hand grabbed me from behind. A voice hissed in my ear, low and menacing. "I told you this wasn't over." I screamed, struggling against the grip, but it was like iron. My phone fell to the floor, its screen cracking. The figure dragged me toward the back door. My feet scraped against the tiles, my voice hoarse as I shouted for Lisa. Suddenly, the lights came back on, and Helen burst through the door with 2 police officers behind her. "Let her go," she shouted. David's face twisted in rage as he shoved me forward and ran out the back door. The officers chased after him, but he was fast. I collapsed to the floor, gasping for air. Lisa held me, sobbing. Helen crouched beside me, her voice trembling with anger. "We'll catch him, Margaret. I swear we will." But deep down, I knew David wasn't done. He had escaped, and somewhere out there, he was watching, waiting. That night, as I tried to calm my racing heart, I heard something on my phone, a notification from the cracked screen. A video file. When I played it, my blood ran cold. It was footage of me sleeping, taken just hours earlier. He had been inside the house the whole time. I couldn't breathe as the video played. The shaky footage showed me lying in bed, unaware, while a shadowy figure stood over me for several minutes, whispering something I couldn't make out. My hands trembled as I clutched the phone, and a cold sweat dripped down my back. Lisa came into my room, her face pale. "Mom, what is it?" I turned the screen toward her. She gasped and covered her mouth. "Oh my God, this is from tonight, isn't it?" I nodded, my voice barely a whisper. "He was here, while we were sleeping." Helen arrived minutes later, her expression grim when she saw the video. "This confirms he broke into the house again," she said. "We need to move you both to a safe location now." No arguments. But even as the police packed us into a patrol car, I felt David's eyes on me, somewhere out there in the night. They moved us into a safe house on the outskirts of town, a small cabin surrounded by trees. It was supposed to be secure, with police patrolling the area. Lisa tried to stay strong, but I could see fear in her every movement. Every time the wind rattled the windows, she jumped. For a few days, things were quiet. Almost too quiet. I tried to relax, but my nerves were frayed. At night, I kept the curtains closed and the lights dimmed. Helen checked in regularly, assuring us that David was being hunted down. Then, one evening as I was making tea, I noticed something strange. The back door's lock had fresh scratches on it, as if someone had been tampering with it. My stomach twisted into knots. I called Helen immediately. "Something's wrong here," I whispered. She promised to send another patrol to check the area, but they found nothing. Still, the feeling wouldn't leave me. That night, it started raining hard. Thunder shook the walls, and lightning lit up the sky. I sat by the window, unable to sleep, when I saw it, a figure moving between the trees. My heart stopped. I grabbed Lisa, and we locked ourselves in the bedroom. I called Helen, my voice shaking. "He's here. I saw him outside." Minutes later, the lights went out. Lisa clung to me, crying. The storm raged outside, and through the crack of the curtains, I saw a flashlight beam moving around the yard. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the door. We both screamed. A voice called out, low and mocking, "Open the door, Margaret. Let's finish this." I backed us into the corner, clutching a heavy lamp like a weapon. "The police are coming," I shouted, though my voice trembled. David's laugh was cold. "You think they'll get here in time?" The sound of splintering wood filled the air. The back door was breaking. Lisa sobbed harder. My heart raced so violently I thought I might faint. Just as the door burst open, Helen stormed in with her gun drawn. David, freeze! Lightning flashed, illuminating his twisted face as he lunged forward with a knife. Helen fired, and the shot echoed through the house. David collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain, the knife slipping from his hand. The officers rushed in seconds later, pinning him down and handcuffing him. Lisa and I clung to each other, shaking. Helen looked at me, her voice steady but urgent. He's alive, but he's done. This time, he's not getting out. As they dragged him away, David's eyes met mine, burning with hatred. This isn't the end, Margaret, he hissed through gritted teeth. I shuddered, but Helen put her arm around me. Don't listen to him. He'll never hurt you again. For the first time in weeks, I felt a tiny spark of hope. Maybe, just maybe, it was over. But later that night, as I sat alone in the safe house, my phone buzzed with a new message from an unknown number. My heart froze when I opened it. It was a picture of me standing by the window, taken just minutes ago. Someone else was out there, watching me. The photo sent chills down my spine. It showed me in real time, wearing the same nightgown, holding the same mug of chamomile tea, standing by the exact same window. Whoever had taken it was close. Too close. I dropped the mug, and it shattered on the wooden floor. My breath caught in my throat. Lisa rushed in from the other room. What happened, Mom? I held out my phone, showing her the message. Her face turned white. Is this now? I nodded. It means someone else is involved. It wasn't just David. Lisa locked all the doors and windows while I called Helen again. She answered on the first ring. Margaret. I tried to keep my voice from shaking. He's not working alone. I just got another photo. Of me. From outside the window. There was silence on the other end. Then Helen said, We're on our way. Don't open the door for anyone, no matter what. When Helen arrived with another officer, they searched the surrounding woods and found fresh boot prints leading into the tree line, and then nothing. Whoever had been there vanished, like a ghost. That night, the safe house no longer felt safe. Lisa and I slept with the lights on, jumping at every gust of wind, every creak in the walls. The next morning, we went to the police station. Helen walked us through the latest updates. David's been denied bail. He's staying locked up. But we just recovered more footage from his laptop backups. Margaret. She hesitated before showing me the screen. It was me. Recorded in the shower. Recorded in the bathroom. Recorded sitting at the edge of my bed, crying. My hand flew to my mouth in horror. How long? I whispered. Helen's face was grim. Over 6 months. My knees gave out, and Lisa caught me before I hit the floor. How had I not known? How had I let this go on for so long under my nose? The videos weren't just of me. There were other folders. Names I didn't recognize. Young women. Teenage girls. Some recordings dated back years. David wasn't just a creep. He was part of something much darker. He may be part of a bigger ring, Helen said. We're contacting the FBI. Suddenly, the room spun. I wasn't just a victim of some sick peeping crime. I had been unknowingly living with a predator who had hurt others. Maybe worse. The FBI got involved. They seized everything from David's devices, including names and email trails. One particular message stood out. It was an email David had sent to someone named Mark H. The subject, Still watching the blonde old lady. Recording nightly. Will upload to Drive later. That wasn't just sick, it was confirmation that he had a partner. Or more. Helen glanced at me. We're putting you under full protective custody, Margaret. This is no longer just about you. It's bigger. Lisa squeezed my hand. We'll be okay, Mom. We're together. But I didn't feel okay. I felt exposed, used, hunted. That night, under heavy protection in a government safe house, I had trouble sleeping. I kept my phone face down. I didn't want to see another message. But around 3 a.m., I heard a ding. I ignored it. Then another ding. And another. Finally, I turned the screen over. There were 3 messages, each from a different number. The first, "You're famous now, Margaret." The second, "He told us everything." The third one had a video thumbnail. I hesitated and tapped. It was footage of Lisa. Not from the safe house. From before. Recorded months ago, undressing in her room, brushing her hair, reading in bed. My blood went cold. David hadn't just watched me. He'd been watching his own wife. My daughter. I dropped the phone and covered my mouth to muffle my scream. Lisa walked into my room, yawning. "Mom? You okay?" I looked up at her, tears falling. "He filmed you too." She stopped in her tracks. "What?" I handed her the phone with trembling hands. She stared at the screen, then collapsed to the floor, sobbing. "He filmed me? Oh my God! Oh my God!" Helen burst in moments later, having heard the cries. When she saw the footage, her face darkened with fury. "We're going to catch every last person involved," she said, her voice trembling with controlled rage. "I promise you that." But I had one question no one could answer yet. If David is behind bars, who is still sending me the footage? The morning sun crept through the blinds, but it did nothing to warm me. The safe house, which was supposed to be a sanctuary, now felt like a prison. Every corner seemed to hide a shadow. Every sound made me jump. Lisa hadn't spoken much since seeing the footage. She sat curled up on the couch, clutching a blanket like a shield. I wanted to hold her, to promise her that everything would be okay, but how could I when I didn't even believe it myself? Helen came by with more agents. Her jaw was tight, her tone sharp. "Margaret, we traced the messages. They're coming from multiple burner phones, all within a 10-mile radius." "So they know where we are," I said, my voice trembling. Helen nodded. "We believe David's network is still active. Someone's feeding them information about your location." My heart pounded. "You think there's a mole?" "It's possible," she admitted. "Which means we have to move you again." That night, before we left, I decided to take one last walk around the safe house's perimeter. The air was cold and crisp, and I wrapped my shawl tightly around me. I needed to clear my head. But as I reached the edge of the yard, my foot brushed against something metallic. I looked down. There, half buried in the soil, was a small device blinking with a faint red light. A tracker. My breath hitched. I glanced around, feeling eyes on me. I ran back inside, clutching the device. "Helen!" When she saw it, her face went pale. "They tagged the house." Agents swarmed the area, searching for other devices. They found 3 more trackers hidden under the porch and near the windows. Whoever was behind this wasn't just watching us, they were preparing for something. We were moved to another undisclosed location, this time, a heavily secured apartment with cameras that we controlled. Armed officers stood guard outside. For a few days, there was silence. No messages, no strange sightings. I almost let myself believe it was over. But then, on the 3rd night, I woke up to the faint sound of tapping on the balcony door. I froze. Slowly, I sat up and peered through the curtains. A man was standing there. Tall, broad-shouldered, his face hidden by a ski mask. He held up a phone with a glowing screen. The text on the screen made my blood run cold. "Let me in, Margaret, or Lisa gets hurt." My heart raced. I stumbled backward, knocking over a lamp. The sound brought the agents rushing in. By the time they burst into the room, the man was gone. They searched the area but found nothing, just muddy boot prints leading to the balcony railing. He had climbed down and vanished into the night. The next morning, Lisa confronted me. "Mom, we can't keep running. What do they want from us?" I swallowed hard. "They want to scare us. They want control." "But why us?" she asked, her voice shaking. Helen answered for me. "Because Margaret has something they want. Proof. The recording she captured, the footage of David, the emails. That evidence can take down the entire ring." I stared at Helen. "Then let's use it. Let's bait them." Helen raised an eyebrow. "That's dangerous." I straightened my back. "I've been hiding long enough. If they want me, they'll come for me. And when they do, we'll be ready." That night, the trap was set. Agents positioned themselves in unmarked cars outside. Cameras were placed everywhere. I sat alone in the living room, pretending to watch TV while Lisa stayed in a locked bedroom with 2 officers guarding her. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Then, click. The power went out. My heart thudded. The apartment was plunged into darkness. Through the faint glow of the emergency lights, I saw movement. A shadow creeping along the wall. My breath caught as the figure stepped closer, whispering my name. "Margaret!" I gripped the edge of the couch, my pulse hammering in my ears. Suddenly, the figure lunged at me, but before he could touch me, the room exploded with light. Agents stormed in, tackling him to the ground. The mask was ripped off, and my blood turned to ice. It wasn't David. It was Mark H., the man from the emails. He snarled at me as they dragged him away. "You think this is over, old woman? David told me everything. You'll never be safe." As they hauled him out, Helen leaned toward me. "We've got him. This is a huge break." But as I sat there trembling, my phone buzzed again. I picked it up with shaking hands. A new message lit the screen. "You caught one of us, but the rest are still watching." Attached was a live feed from inside Lisa's locked bedroom. The live feed froze me to the core. It showed Lisa asleep in her bed, completely unaware that someone was inside her room filming her. The camera moved slightly, as if held by a trembling hand. My heart slammed against my ribs. "Lisa!" I screamed, bolting from the couch. The agents in the hallway spun around as I ran to her room. They kicked the door open, guns drawn, but the room was empty except for Lisa, who jolted awake in terror. "What's going on?" she cried, clutching the blanket. The agents tore the room apart, but no one was there. The window was still locked. There was no sign of forced entry. But in the corner, barely visible under the bed, they found it, a small black camera, its red light still blinking. Lisa sobbed. "How did they get in? The room was locked. There were guards outside." Helen came in, her face pale. "Someone planted this while we were distracted. They were inside the building." The fear that gripped me turned to anger. "This ends tonight," I said, my voice steady despite my shaking hands. The agents secured Lisa and swept every inch of the apartment. More hidden cameras were found, planted in the vents, in the smoke detectors, even in the bathroom. Whoever these people were, they were relentless. Helen spoke quietly to me while the others worked. "Margaret, the FBI traced the signal from the live feed. It's bouncing through multiple servers, but it originates from an abandoned warehouse 2 miles from here. We're launching a raid tonight." I swallowed hard. "I'm coming with you." Helen frowned. "No. It's too dangerous." I looked her dead in the eyes. "They've stolen my safety, my privacy, and my peace. They've hurt my daughter. I'm not hiding anymore. After a moment, she nodded. Stay behind me at all times. That night, we drove in silence. The warehouse loomed ahead, a massive rusted structure surrounded by overgrown weeds. The agents moved in first, weapons raised, while I stayed close to Helen. The moment we stepped inside, the smell of mold and metal hit me. Old cameras and monitors lined the walls, wires snaking across the floor. Dozens of screens flickered, each showing live footage from different hidden cameras, some of me, some of Lisa, and some of other women I didn't recognize. My stomach turned. A voice echoed from the shadows. Welcome, Margaret. We've been expecting you. The agents spread out, guns aimed. A man stepped into the light, tall, wearing a black hoodie, his face hidden behind a mask. You think you can stop us? He said, his voice cold and calm. We have eyes everywhere. Helen raised her gun. Drop the mask and get on the ground. The man chuckled. Do you think arresting me will stop the rest? David, Mark, me, we're just the beginning. Before anyone could react, he pulled something from his pocket, an explosive trigger. The agents shouted, but he pressed the button. A loud beep echoed through the warehouse, followed by a series of rapid clicks. Everyone out! Helen screamed. They dragged me toward the exit as the beeping grew faster. Just as we burst through the doors, a massive explosion ripped through the building, lighting up the night sky. Flames roared behind us as the warehouse crumbled. I collapsed on the ground, gasping for air. Helen helped me up. Are you hurt? I shook my head, tears streaming down my face. The evidence, it's gone, isn't it? She looked grim. Most of it, yes. But we still have your recordings. That's enough to keep going. Back at the safe location, I barely slept. The fire had destroyed so much, but I knew this was far from over. These people were part of something much bigger than we thought. Just as I was starting to drift into uneasy sleep, my phone buzzed again. My hands shook as I opened the message. It was a photo of me and Lisa sitting in the police car earlier that night, taken from inside the car. The message read, You can't run from us, Margaret. We're already where you're going. Before I could show Helen, the phone rang. An unknown voice hissed through the speaker. We're not done with you. Tomorrow night, we take Lisa. Try to stop us. My knees buckled. I clutched the phone, whispering to myself, Not my daughter. You'll never have her. I didn't know how, but I swore that night I would fight back. Even if it meant risking everything. The threat echoed in my head all night. Tomorrow night, we take Lisa. I didn't sleep. I sat in the dark, clutching a kitchen knife and staring at the door. Every sound, every shadow felt like a warning. When the first light of dawn crept in, I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait for them to come to me. I was going to strike first. Helen arrived early with fresh updates. Margaret, we've traced a few surviving data packets from the warehouse fire. They lead to a safe house on the outskirts of town. I grabbed my coat. Then that's where we're going. She hesitated. It's dangerous. These people are organized and armed. But if you're determined, I'll make sure you're protected. Lisa clutched my hand. Mom, no, please. Let the police handle it. I squeezed back, my voice firm. They're coming for you, Lisa. I won't let that happen. That evening, a full SWAT team surrounded the location. It was a large, abandoned farmhouse hidden deep in the woods. As the officers crept in, Helen and I stayed back, watching from the surveillance van. Then, suddenly, the cameras cut to static. Helen cursed. They jammed our signal. Something's wrong. Gunfire erupted in the distance. The radio filled with shouts and orders. My heart pounded as I grabbed Helen's arm. We have to go in there. Despite protocol, she nodded and armed herself. Together, we slipped through the trees toward the house. The smell of smoke filled the air as we reached the back entrance. Inside, the house was eerily silent. Too silent. We moved through the dark hallways, flashlights cutting through the dust. Then we found it, a room full of monitors showing live feeds. One of them was Lisa, sleeping safely back at our secured apartment. But then, the feed glitched, and a masked man appeared on her screen, standing over her bed. My blood turned to ice. "Lisa!" I screamed, even though she couldn't hear me. Helen grabbed the radio, shouting orders. "Units, check the secondary location now. They've already infiltrated the safe house." We tore back to the van, speeding toward Lisa's location. My chest ached with every breath, my hands gripping the seats so tightly they hurt. When we arrived, the front door of the apartment was wide open. We ran inside. The lights flickered. The guards who were supposed to be stationed outside were unconscious, bound with zip ties. My voice cracked as I called, "Lisa? Baby, where are you?" From the bedroom came a muffled scream. I burst through the door and saw her, tied to a chair, gagged, tears streaming down her face. Standing behind her was another masked man, holding a knife to her throat. "Don't come any closer," he growled, "or she dies." Helen raised her weapon, but I stepped forward, my hands out. "Please, take me instead. You want me, not her." The man tilted his head, considering. "You're right, but killing her would hurt you more." I swallowed hard, my heart pounding in my ears. Then, without thinking, I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy lamp, and swung it as hard as I could. The lamp smashed into his head, and he stumbled back, dropping the knife. Lisa screamed as Helen tackled him to the ground. Officers stormed in seconds later, dragging him away, kicking and cursing. Lisa collapsed into my arms, sobbing, "Mom, I thought I was going to die." I held her tight, my own tears falling. "Not while I'm breathing, sweetheart. Not while I'm here." Later, as the man was taken into custody, Helen revealed something chilling. "This guy isn't just part of the network. He's the one running it now that David is in prison." He called himself the Watcher. I shivered. "Is it over?" Helen looked me straight in the eye. "We've crippled their operation, but people like this, they always have backups. You need to stay alert." That night, Lisa and I were moved again, this time to a heavily guarded federal facility. For the first time in weeks, I thought maybe we could sleep in peace. But at 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. A new message appeared, with a chilling video attachment. It was David, calling from an unknown location. His face bruised, his eyes burning with hatred. "You think you've won, Margaret? You just killed the man protecting you. Now I'm coming for you myself." My blood ran cold. The video ended with a final whisper. "Tomorrow, everything ends." The whisper haunted me. Tomorrow, everything ends. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I sat in the dim light of the facility's kitchen, staring at the door with a cup of untouched coffee in my hands. The agents outside rotated shifts, but I still felt vulnerable. Lisa was finally resting in the room down the hall. I had promised myself nothing would happen to her again. Not while I was alive. Helen arrived just before sunrise. Her face was tight, her voice firm. "Margaret, we intercepted chatter. David escaped during a prison transfer last night. He's armed, dangerous, and heading this way." My chest tightened. "He's coming here?" She nodded. "We're fortifying the facility, but he's clever. You need to be ready for anything." By evening, a storm rolled in, rain lashing against the windows like nails. The wind howled, drowning out every sound outside. The agents were on high alert. Lisa stayed close to me, clutching my hand. Around midnight, the lights flickered. Backup generators are on, an officer said, but his voice betrayed his unease. Then the power went completely out. The emergency lights glowed faint red, casting eerie shadows across the walls. A loud crash echoed from the far hallway, followed by a scream. The agents rushed toward the noise. Helen pushed me and Lisa into a secured room, locking it from the inside. "Stay here. Don't open the door for anyone but me." She left with her weapon drawn. Moments later, we heard gunfire. Lisa clung to me, trembling. "Mom, he's here." I held her tight, my own body shaking. "Stay quiet, baby. Just stay quiet." The doorknob rattled. My heart stopped. A voice, calm and taunting, came from the other side. "Margaret, open the door. Let's finish this, just you and me." I grabbed the heavy lamp from the desk, holding it like a weapon. "You're not getting in here, David." He laughed, low and chilling. "I always get what I want." Then the door's lock clicked. He had the access code. The door swung open slowly, revealing him. His face was bruised and twisted with rage, his clothes torn from the escape. In one hand, he held a gun. Lisa screamed, but I stepped in front of her, my voice shaking but defiant. "You'll have to kill me first." David raised the gun. "That's the plan." Before he could pull the trigger, a shot rang out, from behind him. David staggered forward, the gun dropping from his hand. He collapsed to the floor. Helen stood in the doorway, her smoking gun still raised. "It's over, David." But he wasn't done. With his last strength, he reached for a small device in his pocket and pressed a button. A loud beep filled the room. I looked around wildly. Under the bed, a small explosive light started blinking. "Bomb!" Helen yelled. We ran as fast as we could, bursting down the hall just as the device exploded. The blast knocked us to the floor. Smoke filled the air. Alarms screamed. I coughed, my ears ringing, and looked around. Lisa was next to me, crying but alive. Helen pulled us both to our feet. "We need to get out, now." Agents swarmed in, helping us escape the burning facility. Behind us, flames devoured everything. David's body lay still in the inferno. Hours later, as dawn broke, we stood outside under the gray sky, wrapped in blankets. The nightmare was over, or so I thought. Helen placed a hand on my shoulder. "You were brave, Margaret. It's finished now." I wanted to believe her. I really did. But as the fire trucks put out the last of the flames, my phone buzzed in my pocket. With shaking hands, I opened the message. It was a photo, taken just minutes ago. It showed me, standing there with Lisa and Helen. The caption read, "You killed one of us, but we are many, and we are still watching." I dropped the phone, my knees weak. Lisa gripped my arm. "Mom, what does it mean?" I looked at her, my voice barely a whisper. "It means, it's not over.